Welcome to the Land Investing Business Secret Podcast, where each short episode we talk about the strategies, experiences, and the tools to help you launch, grow, and scale your land business. Learn how to find freedom within your own business, find out ways to build consistency in your processes, and hear how other everyday land investors are winning so you can get to the next step closer to building your dream life through your land business. And I'm your host of the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast by Pebble, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast. I've got a return guest. I've always had a great chat with him in the past, and he brings a lot of energy and creativity and just a lot of good vibes from him. Sumner, I have him talking about really, the realities of running a land business. I think a lot of us are always constantly seeing all the glorified things about running your own business or running a land business. And I wanted to pull someone like Sumner, who's, relatively quite successful in the land business, and explain some of the things that he goes through with his land business. So I'm excited to have him on the show here. As a reminder, if you are looking to systemize and streamline your land investing business, I'm not going to say much about this. Check out dirthackerchallenge.com. It's a 5-day challenge. I work with you getting your business, your model, what you're doing in your business. I don't talk about pricing. I don't talk about counties. I talk about processes and repeatable process and actually how to build that all up in a very methodical and mechanical way, because I think a lot of us are shown how to go about, the strategic side of things, but nobody is there to kind of take you by the hand and actually build this all together. I'm showing you how to use the hammer, really. I don't give you the blueprint of the house, but I really show you how to use the tools to build your business across 5 days. It's an hour and a half every day. Check it out. I run it once a month, dirthackerchallenge.com. So make sure you get your seat today. Other than that, guys, enjoy this podcast episode here with Sumner Healy. Cheers. Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Jesse here. I have a special guest who's returning, Sumner. Sumner, how you doing?
Good. Happy to be here. It's fun to be back. I don't know if you know this, but last time I was quite nervous being here. So this time I'm feeling a little more cool, calm, and collected. It was my first time ever really talking about what we were doing on the coaching side. So it was a big deal.
Yeah. You know what? I'm laughing here, guys, because Sumner just had to repeat what he said because we literally did this recording and there was an error. This is like my biggest fear. And also Sumner said it was one of his fear. It finally happened. The recording it just corrupted. I don't know what happened here. So we're going to start again, but we're going to go through what we had talked about. Anyways, so Sumner, I had you on a few months ago. Give us an update since our last episode. I think we just launched it not too long ago, but we actually recorded it closer to, was it the end of last year or early this year?
End of January.
Yeah. Give us an update. How have things been since then? I mean, even in the last six months, what have things looked like since then?
Dude, man, it's been a whirlwind since we last recorded on a lot of levels. I'd say the last 6 months, quarter four, most land investors didn't have a good time. Quarter one on the land business has been pretty good. We still have some concerns on what's on the horizon, but did a little over $1 million in acquisitions this quarter. So hit our acquisition goal. Got our first subdivider that we're closing on next week. Our coaching program has gone, quite frankly, parabolic. Like it's exceeded my expectations really since we last spoke. Like that seemed January was really an odd tipping point. I don't know if it was a bunch of New Year's resolutioners or what, but it's just gone crazy. So on a lot of levels, like the last 3 months, I feel like have just been both personally and business on another level. Super grateful. We still have some concerns, some trepidations. And so we're working through some new strategies in our land business. I always tell people the land business is going to mature. Like it's going to become more efficient. There's no way around that. And so I think we're seeing a little bit of that. We're also seeing a bit of a downturn in the market, a bit of a softening, but we're coming off high highs. And so yes, things are worse compared to a year or two ago, but in the grand scheme of things, the land business is still the land business.
Yeah. As I'm listening, I'm like, man, what did I ask before? But anyways, I'm gonna just get that out of my head right now. We're gonna start fresh. Sorry, it's still kind of chipping at me because I know we had a lot of great things we discussed. So I'm gonna start from scratch here. But anyways, okay, good to hear. Things have been challenging. Things have really picked up on the coaching, and so on the land side of things, things you're coming across a lot of challenges, and I mean, how does that how does that make you feel? What kind of things go on in your head when you're sort of facing things you've never faced? I mean, really just new challenges, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But when you're seeing numbers, because a lot of us look at our numbers as a way to gauge how everything is moving with the business, and so when you see your numbers are different, what's going on in your head, and what kind of thought processes are you going through at that point then?
Yeah, dude, it's a great question. There's been iterations to my emotions. Right, I think this quarter one we were in a phase of what I call lateral growth. Right, we were growing in other areas that weren't just related to an increase in revenue, like a hockey stick going up. And so I've had to understand that growth is going to look different. Right, it's not always about
Yeah.
revenue is up 10%, 15, 20. Like this doesn't compound indefinitely. Number one, but it's also not the only metric for growth. Quarter four was this horrible emotional experience for me on a lot of levels. Like we were coming off feeling invincible in our land business. I mean, like on autopilot,
Yeah.
175, 200K a month, really, really consistently. We just felt like we had it down to such a science. Things softened in quarter four. I started doubting myself, going through the classic thought process. And really, like, I've let a lot of that stuff go. It's cheesy, but I've had to do a lot of the inner work, and it's paid dividends in a lot of other areas. So
Yeah.
coming into this year, it's actually been a lot of excitement because that lateral growth has been us breaking into new areas, different acquisition strategies, different disposition strategies, value add strategies. And so that excitement, it makes me feel like a beginner again, right?
Yeah.
There's like a Zen saying about having a beginner's mind. And there really is something to that, like coming in with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Because the land business, a good land business, should be frankly boring. It's just boring. I tell people you're building a conveyor belt where you put the same subtype of land on, use the same disposition strategies, and just cash spits out on the other end. And we've had to kind of reinvent that conveyor belt, and that's been really fun. So Q4 emotional turmoil, Q1 joy, so it's all good.
Yeah.
There's been a lot to unwind in that process.
It sounds like you. I mean, this is what it is with a business is when it's almost expected, and I think a lot of people feel like it should be a diagonal line to the right all the time, and I think in reality what we typically see is we're going to go on the right for a while and we're going to hit a ceiling, and we're here to continually solve problems and changes. And I think a lot of people coming into the land business might expect that, hey, it's once I'm in and I figure it out, it's the same way all the way type of thing. When I think it isn't going to be like that. It's never going to be like that. And I want those that are listening to really with this interview here with Sumner is to really sort of get a hit of reality of what it's like to be running a full on land business. And it is full of challenges and full of ceilings that you're going to constantly hit, and plateaus you're going to constantly hit, and dips and valleys and whatnot. It is going to be like this. And clearly that's what's happening here. So um, thank you for sharing that a little bit. So, um, in the way that you approach things, when you're sort of hitting a ceiling, how do you cope with that? What do you actually do to give yourself a breath of fresh air? Like you feel like you're in a creative mode right now, I'm sure, and you're re-strategizing. You're coming at this with new eyes. How did you get to that point?
Yeah.
How does someone get to that and reposition themselves to be at that
I
point?
think I think you said it in the question, a breath of fresh air. Like that is part of it, right? Stepping away from the problem.
Right.
For me, on the micro level, that can be just taking a couple walks throughout the day. When I hit a wall, it's like understanding that I'm typically not going to solve the problem. The like more I sit there and look at the problem, it's about holding that problem in your mind and then giving your time, your subconscious to figure that out and stepping away from the problem. So on the micro level, looks like that. Running has been a huge component for me. I just finished my first marathon a couple weeks ago. And on the macro level, it's about really taking planned time off. So I operate on typically 4 to 8 week sprints. Recently, it's been 4 week sprints where I work for 4 weeks, I travel for 2 weeks, work
I
for four,
love
travel
that.
for two. I think probably a more realistic balance is 8 weeks, but for whatever reason, travel's just been been high on my mind recently. And so deliberately creating that white space, right? And I used to be, that was the antithesis of how I wanted to live my life. I just thought more work, more work, more work, more reward, more reward. And that's just like this one-to-one relationship. And it's not how it works. There's a reason you have your best ideas in the shower. There's a reason you have your best ideas while you're driving, because
Yeah.
there's white space. That's how the human brain operates in kind of max capacity, right? You get the idea, the problem, whatever you want to wrestle with, you plant it in, and then you relax. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's like all Q4, I'm just trying to beat up my business and grit my teeth and find out, how do I solve this? And I was just spinning my wheels in circles, man. Came into Q1, I was like, okay, January, I gotta re-strategize. And quite frankly, just took time off to do that.
I love
And,
that.
I'm lucky to be in a position where that's possible. I understand not everyone's circumstances can allow that. But even as easy as just guarding your weekends or taking an extra day off a month. Bill Gates does this thing where I think it's one weekend a month or one weekend a quarter. He goes out into the woods and just reads. And it's like
Yeah.
just create. And he says that's where he comes up with his best ideas. If you look at a lot of the great thinkers over history, it's like they've always had set downtime. And that's been a big one for me. Some people might be like, dude, that's so obvious. But I never would allow myself that. That was like a huge no-no. And I would get so critical of myself if I felt like I was falling into that. Turns out it's
Yeah.
exactly what I needed. So that's been a big thing, just pulling back.
Yeah, and finding that discipline to actually
Yeah.
pull back. I mean, it's like we were saying earlier. It's so funny in society. This is sort of on our end, we actually have to plan this out and make this happen. And one of the ways that I find it, and I don't know if this is true with you, Sumner. It sounds like it's true with you. It's like you almost have to come up with a structure and protect your time and really schedule this in to make it a real thing, because that white space is really where you're going to get a lot of your deep thinking, a lot of your strategizing done. I mean, if you're feeling overworked and you want to scale up a business, well, you're going to need that white space to really be able to think, on the big picture, what you need to be doing. So
Yeah.
there was a book that you mentioned earlier that led you to think about, working in sprints. And
Yeah.
I want you to talk about that analogy. We had that recorded, and I thought that was brilliant. And let's talk about that and where you heard that from.
Yeah. Yeah. So to rewind real quick, anytime I start feeling like there's a problem or something that needs solving in my life, I usually gravitate towards books. And so I've been reading all sorts of stuff that's in all different genres on anxiety, on work, on productivity. I'm reading Brene Brown's Pathway to the Heart, I think it is. I recently read Naval Ravikant's Almanac of Naval. And they're totally disparate ideas in two totally different arenas, but they're actually both kind of getting to the same point. And what Naval talks about is the most successful people, they work like a lion, right? You go and get the gazelle, you go get the big kill, and then you pull back. You retreat, you eat, you rest, you relax, you hibernate, whatever you need to do, and then you go and do a sprint again. And that way you're going and getting big rewards where most folks are operating like cows. They're grazing all day long and just picking up little pieces here and there, and they never actually get much rest, right? And they also never have the opportunity to get the big win, because to get the big win, you need to be rested and recharged. And I've noticed that the output of my work, which we should be judging the output over how many hours we're putting in, right? So what is my work producing? That
Yeah,
output has been way higher when I've allowed myself to pull back. And I
yeah,
think, dude, like a lot of people just discount. I think a lot of entrepreneurs discount what it feels like to be inspired, right? We can be so in the trenches, operator mindset, get shit done kind of mindset, that you lose the zest for what you're doing. I'm telling
yeah.
you, inspiration is a resource that can't be depleted. It is a competitive moat around what you're doing, but you've got to consciously cultivate it. And I frankly, for a while there, I lost my inspiration, and
Yeah.
that's not how I want to operate.
I love that. And we'll make sure to share that in the show notes. And by the way, that book, I know there's a free version of that laying on the internet too, and you can get it on a podcast format as well. So do check that out. I think it's downloadable on his website or something like that. So we'll make sure to include that. So thank you for sharing that. I have to say thank you, because it's a good reminder for me. I just came back from a long trip and I feel super revitalized as well, and a lot of fresh ideas. It was a little bit on the lengthy side, but yeah, I really do appreciate you bringing that up. Now, um, pulling back, we talked a little bit about that, carving out space. I wanted to make sure we touched on that. One of the questions that I kind of came up with here was, we already got you just shared some numbers about your business as well, and what you expected previously a couple of years is not what you're expecting now. I I want to ask you, what is it that you hate about your land
Mhm.
business? I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they're supposed to love everything about their business
Yeah.
and do everything and feel passionate about everything. I mean, we all hate stuff that we do. I mean,
Yeah.
share with us what are some kind of things that you hate about the land business?
Yeah. Yeah. Top of my mind right now as I'm getting ready to go to Colombia this weekend, really is around the fact that not every state allows documents to be notarized. That's just online, at least, rather. That's just shocking to me, right? It's like the land business is outdated, but really, when we look at how counties operate for recording of any kind of document, counties are outdated. I mean, it's unbelievable amount of waste and paper that we have to go through, and the mailing and the back and forth when there's a solution already in place. Like online notaries are phenomenal. In fact, you could actually say that they're safer than
Yep.
in-person notaries. You could spoof an in-person notary, in my
Right.
opinion, a lot easier than you could an online one. So that's annoying. We're giving someone the power of attorney in our business to sign documents, but it's one of the last areas of relinquished control on. So after this call, I've got 7 or some odd documents to go and notarize. And it's not you're not notarizing one document. It's like 40 documents with 2 notary signatures in there. They could send the other 38 for digital signature, but they're like, let's make his life miserable. Just send them all together. So that's high on my mind in terms of frustration. It's certainly solvable. Typically, you're not going to delegate that out when you're first getting started. It was
Yep.
an area that took me a long time to even come to terms with that I was going to get rid of it. But while you're traveling, it's a really hard dynamic to balance, right? We typically push off our closings while I'm away. It's rather inefficient, and frankly, it's just not how we want to do things long term.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think it's just more of a characteristic to the land business, and I think anyone that's been land investing for a while can attest to this. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. We preach in our business and inside our coaching program how important it is to have a cadence for your marketing, right? What we never want to see is lumpy lead flow, where someone drops 10,000 mailers on the 30th day of the month and they get this
Yep.
explosion of leads coming in. We
Yep.
want a consistent trickle out, keep it pretty
Yep.
streamlined so you don't break the systems internally. Despite all we do there, both for our acquisitions and our dispositions, it's always so freaking lumpy. I don't know what it is. Any land investor that's been doing this for a while can attest to the fact that you'll make all your money in 1 week out of the month. Like, what? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a business model, that's annoying, right? Like, as we
Yeah.
built our coaching business, it's like, oh, you can have really clean forecasting. And yes, we can forecast in the land business on a quarterly or annual basis based
Mm.
off of how much mail we're going to send, what the yield's going to be, what our historical gross profit per deal. Like, we can break all of that down and get a pretty clear expectation. If I do X for inputs on marketing, I
Yep.
will get Y on the back end. But
Right.
month to month, good luck. Week to week, no chance. Day to day, not even possible, right? We were just talking in our group about this yesterday. It's like a lot of these guys that have been with us for 3 or 4 months are catching their stride. Like, we just had a couple of people cross 30, 40 grand for the first like full month land investing. It's like that first 2 months you're ramping up. It's awkward. It's weird. But like 3 month, you should be having consistent revenue coming in if you put the right infrastructure in place to start. And they're like, yeah, it's so weird. Like, it all happens at the beginning of the month, end of the month, middle of the month. It's always clustered together. And so
Yeah.
that's very annoying when it comes to predictability in a business.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so funny. That I never thought about it that way, but yeah, so true.
Yeah.
Um, there was something you mentioned there about travel, and I'm sort of sidetracking here right now. But one of the things I do want to mention is, it had to do with your previous point about traveling and carving out space. If you want to see something inspiring, follow Sumner on social media, because it is really cool to see how active you are to sticking to the things that you do to carve space to allow you to run your business. This is such a hard thing to grasp and understand, I think, especially early on when you're sort of getting things started. You're gung-ho, you're excited, and then before you know it, you end up almost burning out. And
Yeah.
so check out Sumner. I'll get you to throw your social medias and all that in the chat, and that's how I and eventually ended up finding
Yeah.
Sumner myself. But really cool stuff, and thank you for taking us on that journey with you. It is incredible to see some of that stuff happening, and how committed you are to working out and carving that space. So
Thank you.
let's come back to what we were just talking about, what you hate, and then let's jump into a moment then. Describe to us a really low point. This is gonna get a little bit vulnerable here, right? People say, but I mean, in reality, because we never hear this stuff. I was telling Sumner, I used to have a podcast called "I'm Horrible at Business," and this is all we talked about because we hear all these glamorous, things about being an entrepreneur and doing this, but there is a reality side of things, and people just need to know this is a real thing, and we all hit these kind of low points. Sumner, can you share with us a low point in some of what you've done with your land business in this total time?
Yeah. Yeah. First off, everyone in the comments, tell Jesse to bring the podcast back. I think the world needs some content around that. Like, it's so accurate. I often am like, dude, I don't know a damn thing. The deeper I get into this, the more I realize I'm like, I'm so clueless. I really am. So a low point, and this is going to be like, I hope this isn't taken out of context because a low point is all relative, right? Like I always tell people, like pain is relative to your circumstances. For some people, losing $10 feels like the most pain. For people, losing $100,000 feels like the same amount of pain. It's just relative.
Yeah.
So this is relative, and a lot of our pain is just this weird expectations we set up. So in November of 2022, my girlfriend, we weren't girlfriend and boyfriend at the time. We had just started seeing each other. We said, let's go do a month in Hawaii. Let's go really test drive this relationship, figure out if we like each other, right?
Yeah.
So we would go and get a house in the jungle in the Big Islands. And we go there. My girlfriend's a fitness coach. She's like an online fitness coach. Got a really big following, really big fitness coaching business. And like it's very well established, but I always thought my business was a little bit bigger. I mean, like I wasn't, not that we compete, but I mean, two entrepreneurs together, there's a very friendly competition going on. It's never gotten negative, but I'm going there. Like that was one of the reasons that we were so drawn to each other is that we had never had partners where we could previously talk business and we have fun with each other. We're attracted to each other. We make each other laugh. But at the same time, there's a level of empathy because we go through the same stuff. And so we were both so excited by that. So we're just talking business, sharing numbers, talking strategy. And we go out to Hawaii. And I always do this thing before I go on trips. It's probably a horrible thing to do. I always set an expectation of how much money I want to make on the trip. So I was like, hey, I'm going to be there for 30 days. I want to make $100,000 while I'm there. I set it as like a little micro goal because I still work when I'm on these trips, just on a limited capacity. A stupid idea. Like you're just setting yourself up for disappointment, right? It's a good way to ruin a good thing. And we get there and she starts having the best month in her business she's ever had. Like, I don't know what was going on. It was like rocket fuel was applied to her business. She had a bunch of TikTok videos go viral. She's getting like hundreds of leads a week. And dude, we sold like 2 properties. No, we sold only 2 properties. We probably sold 5 properties that whole month, which was like a 50% drop, maybe actually more. It must have been because I think the month prior in October, I think we had done like 140, 150,000. And we ended up doing like, I don't know, a third of that. And I was just like, made me so mad. And this is the stupid thing though, right? Like, dude, talk about a moment of being an ingrateful little twat. And so you really start thinking about it. I'm like, I set all this up for my detriment. And there's all these stupid expectations that are irrelevant. I had the time of my life. I'm healthy. I have my family, like all those things. Yeah. And a lot of times when I look at my low points in business, objectively, they're not low points. Sumner 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years would have pinched himself for my lowest point today. Yeah. But you get all high and mighty and you're like, I deserve to grow in this. And it's always So, I mean, quite frankly, not even objectively a bad situation. But I set myself up and I got into this really nasty trap of doing that last year. Wow. Always comparing what we were doing a quarter or 6 months or a year ago.
Yeah.
Dude, comparisons suck, man. It's a thief of all joy.
Yeah. That's a whole different conversation to have about comparison and whatnot. That's so interesting. I think the big point out of that is really like low points are so relative, and when you take a step back and look objectively, I mean, we should be grateful for what we have in front of us, which is crazy, which is absolutely crazy.
Well, you know what the thing is too? Is like, dude, I think any entrepreneur can attest to this. Is that like. I think if we didn't have this game in our life, we'd be frankly bored because there is so much unknown about life that to sit with that and not have somewhere to preoccupy yourself is quite frankly scary. Like I'm reading a really interesting book today or this morning about space, and there's 100 trillion galaxies. I mean, how do you wrestle with that? And so it's like we need something to preoccupy ourselves with because the thought of what else and why are we here is so daunting. Yeah. And so we create these little games for ourselves to play. We got to remember this is a game that we set up to make ourselves feel like we have something to do. We wouldn't have it any other way. And a good game has the possibility of you losing, at least temporarily. So it's all a game, man.
I think I read it in a book, right? As founders, you know, the moment we can get some downtime, or if, let's say we retired, I think like we'd probably get bored of that in a couple
Yeah,
of days. We'll probably start looking for problems to
for
solve, and
sure.
a game. It really is a game to start up again.
Yeah.
I remember one time somebody asked me, what is it like running a business? Like, what is it? I remember when I was younger, I was hooked on a game called Diablo. Maybe some of you guys
I
can
played
relate to it.
that. Love Diablo.
I was hooked on that
Yeah.
like crack, and it's really what it feels like when you're trying to build a business and solve problems and
Yeah.
challenges. It really is. It becomes like that. So I'm glad you brought up the analogy of gaming. Anyways, coming back to this. Have you had a moment of burnout? How did you sort of deal that out? If you did, I mean, was there any time that you sort of burned out?
Yeah.
And Sumner, give us a bit of context. How long have you actually been doing it in the land business now?
Yeah. I've been in the land business since 2019.
Yep.
Middle of 2019. Did I hit burnout? For sure. I won't bore you with the whole story, but I think it all accumulated and caught up to me last year. Um, quite frankly, like I've always had a chip on my shoulder, and I think that's been a really good motivating factor. But that's always kind of why I've pursued entrepreneurship. I'm trying to prove something to myself or to my dad or I don't know, someone. Trying to prove
Yeah.
something. I don't really know why. And
Yeah.
so that disposition can lead you to burnout for sure. But when I had started my land business a year in, my girlfriend of 3 years and I was separated. So that chip on my shoulder just got really magnified, like ripped open. And so all I did for a 2 year stretch, I've never really told anyone this. So we had a 2 bedroom house that we were living in La Jolla, California. I offered to give her the house. She didn't want it. She moved out. She did her own thing. So I kept the house. I didn't want to sleep in the same bedroom. So I slept in the floor in the office room. And I just had a futon on the floor and my desk. And I would just stay there for 12, 15 hours a day, just
Oh,
grinding for 2 years. And I mean, we made a lot of progress, but coming off the back end of that last year, I was
yeah.
cooked. I was
Yeah.
so cooked. And so I think that really accumulated towards like the end of last year. It's like, because I think what had happened is I was at this fever pitch where I was so burnt out, but I was so hooked on the progress. And then when the progress started to go like this, and I was still feeling the burnout, I was just like, dude, my brain couldn't handle it. I'm like, I've
Yeah.
given my life to this, and where it's getting worse. It was so hard for me to wrestle with. So it all came to this perfect storm, really like November of last year, October of last year, somewhere around there. So for sure, and I think it's something I'm like a recovering burnout person. Like I think I've been really trying to be mindful
Yeah.
around how I treat work, and
Yeah.
quite frankly, it's like if that means that I have a dip in productivity or progress, dude, for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to make that. And I actually don't even think that's true. But if that's true, I am okay with that trade. But what I've seen to be true is me showing up as a happier person, more grounded and centered. I
Yeah.
make better decisions. And if you think about what do we really get paid off of as entrepreneurs, it's the decisions that we make at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if I can come up with clarity and feel
Yes.
good, it's like, dude, do you create stuff out of a negative headspace? I personally don't think so. I think the good we create in our life is when we are in a good headspace.
Yeah.
And so I don't even think it's going to regress our progress, but I've made peace with it if it does. It's just trying to strike a balance, which I know is so corny. And everyone says like, as an entrepreneur, hustle, hustle, no balance, no balance. First off, like screw the hustle porn stuff. Like, right. I think that's just not cool anymore. Like the Gary V hustle, hustle, hustle. I will say to get like escape velocity and get something going. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to hustle for a year or two,
Yep.
maybe 3.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, like that playbook doesn't work anymore. Like to get you to the next spot,
It does
hustle's
not.
not the answer.
Yeah.
It's a finite resource, and it's usually 1-to-1. Like the input is 1-to-1 to the output you're going to get.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's this whole. This is. I did talk about Gary Vee on that podcast quite a bit about the hustle
yeah,
mentality and how I dislike that so much. But anyways, that's a whole different thing. But now, because land is such a tight community, this is also really interesting. You're surrounded by a lot of people that are constantly moving, pushing,
yeah,
pushing, pushing, and you get caught up in that. And it's very easy to get caught up in that. Especially being around other peers that are constantly doing something. You're hearing another thing, you're hearing it. It becomes a little bit a little bit too much at times. How should somebody, who is in the land space, is in a community, is trying to feel burned out. What do you, are there any thoughts about that? Should they disconnect from the community a little bit? Because there is a lot that goes on. Now, maybe I'm in a certain position where I hear a lot, and sometimes it does get quite overwhelming. What are your thoughts on that? You have a community yourself, and how do we sort of protect the mental health of everybody? Land is just so small. It seems like everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows everyone's numbers. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing because people are very sharing, but it can come at a
Yes.
cost. I'm going to share a really interesting insight. This happened yesterday, like 10 in the morning. So one of our earliest OG Leah members, his name is Michael Bull. Mike's
Yeah.
been with us for about 2 years. He's on track to do 7 figures this year. The guy's a rock star, right?
Yeah.
He comes back from Costa Rica yesterday and shares a few wins that happened while he was gone. And this is how it went. He said, and he put this in our group, said, I had a double close that was a buy at 81,000, sell at 135,000. I accepted a $46,000 offer on a deal we bought for 19,000. I accepted a $22,000 offer on a deal we bought for 9,000. I accepted a $15,000 offer at a deal I bought for 4,500. Then I bought a deal that we were buying for 45, selling at 90, and I bought a deal at 20 that we're selling at 40. Right? And that's like, everyone's congratulating him and it's amazing. And I get a private message from one of the members. It's like, dude, I feel like he had a win to share as well. He had closed an assignment and made $3,000 on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I feel like my win is inferior, and quite frankly, I'm embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've really had to do with the group is cultivate an environment where it's like, yeah, we want to share numbers and share wins, but wins come in all different shapes and sizes. A win might be getting your first mailer out. A win might be downloading data tree. A win might be getting your first phone call from a lead back, even if they said F you, right? And so really trying to create a culture where it's like the win is not just the numbers. And Mike meant no harm by that, right? But I've really tried to develop a community where it's like wins come in all different shapes and sizes, right? And sometimes it's like that lateral growth that I was talking about. It's a lateral win. It's not a up and to the right kind of win. It's something that we're still working on, though. Obviously, as the member said yesterday, he's like, I'm embarrassed to share my win. And I've heard that a few times. And so I think it's like keeping a really clear, I don't know. I don't think it's about removing yourself. I think it's just like keeping a really clean awareness on what progress looks like for you. And I think when I look at people that are winning like that, like Mike, it's a testament to what's possible. And I try so hard to not say it's what I need to be doing. Right. And that's a muscle you develop over time. I think that like running away and shying from it, saying I'm not going to look at it, you're putting a weird energy around it. I would rather confront it, put it in the light and say, I recognize the win. It's amazing. It's possible for me, but I'm going to go focus on my own thing. Right. So I wouldn't retreat from seeing the wins and all that stuff. I would develop the muscle of recognizing your own wins and trying not to compare. The trouble is humans are comparison machines, right? Like we do it subconsciously. It's like really difficult not to do. But when a comparison is coming up, I always try to reframe it and say, yeah, that's possible for me too. Like they're showing me the way. That's amazing. I used to suffer a lot, not so much from comparing other people, although I certainly do, like anyone, but I used to suffer a lot from comparing me to a different point of me. And especially that's what I felt last year. And I've really just tried to dial that back. I'm still figuring it out. But my general advice would be not to retreat from seeing people's success. Celebrate it. When you celebrate and cheer someone on, you are telling the world that you support that and that you're worthy of that. When you poo-poo someone, you're turning a blind eye to it. You're ashamed of that, right? Like you're creating a weird relationship with it. I think the second point is like get in communities where wins are celebrated in all different shapes and sizes. Right. Wins come in a lot of different situations. The truth is, with every win, there's also a negative to that. The negative to what Mike didn't share there is that he's got a crap ton of work to go do now, right? And every loss always has a bit of a silver lining where there's a win attached to it. You always have that duality. So I try to keep that in reference too.
I know you're enjoying the show episode so far, but I wanted to let you know that if you are looking to build or scale a serious land business, perhaps a 6-figure second income or eventually a 7-figure land investing empire, Travis King's company Land Investing Mastery has the most current and innovative education in the space. Travis goes beyond the traditional microflip that you might be familiar with and shows you how to 10x your deal size and execute on strategies like subdividing, portfolio takedowns, land sniping. We're talking six-figure per flip strategies. If you're getting your education from someone who isn't actively investing, you're more than likely going to hit some plateaus as you try to scale. If you want to learn how to avoid the saturated red ocean markets, skip over the small stuff, and learn how to become a boss land investor, then Travis is your guy. Travis has completed nearly 1,000 coaching calls in the last 2 years that I've known him, and he has his pulse on the market. He will tell you, though, Land Investing Mastery is not a factory. They're a boutique agency built on transformational, life-changing results. You see, I'm in a really unique position, and I really mean what I've just said above. In fact, I get to speak to a lot of investors from all sorts of different education, training, coaching background out there, and I get a very good view of things from all the one-on-one demo calls that I've done. Now, you may want some social proof. Head over to pebblerei.com/Travis and check out Travis's wall of love on his testimonial page. And while you're there, you can also learn more about Travis's training programs and his exclusive mastermind. So simply head over to www.pebblerei.com/Travis for more information. Sumner, I think you mentioned something really key is having being clear. And I think also, and I don't know if this is with you guys as well, but being clear on your goals, like
Yeah.
what is a win to you, and having that almost mapped out. So you're focused on what do wins look like for you. It comes in, like you said, it comes in all shapes and different sizes. So have that mapped out. And this is why having quarterly plans are so good, or planning up ahead. What is it that you want to what is it that you want to reach, and reach that goal,
Yeah.
reach that win? And I think it is another way, another mechanism to really help you stay focused. It allows you to celebrate other people, but you know exactly what does a win look like for you. Is it getting your first mailer out? Is it, being able to talk to 10 different leads on a phone call and keep it all under 5 minutes or something, whatever it is?
Yeah.
Be specific and map that out. And I think that can sort of also help you stay focused on what does a win look like for you. I think clarity
It's so true.
plays a big role in that.
I think
So
something to piggyback on that too. This is a muscle I've been trying to develop. It's know what you're shooting for, right? Have
yes,
clarity around that, but
yeah,
also celebrate it, dude.
yeah.
Celebrate. My God, as entrepreneurs, it's so easy to like hit the goal and be what's next. Take
Yeah,
a moment and like whether it's just reflecting on it or this is weird. Like I would not classify myself as a materialistic person,
yeah,
but I've had to give myself carrot sticks as a little thing to say that train your brain. When you
yeah,
check off that win, give yourself a treat. I know some people are like so against that. Like,
yeah,
no, don't incentivize yourself like that. I think it's totally fair, whether it's a trip, taking your girlfriend out to dinner, or your partner out to dinner, like whatever it may be, do something to
yeah,
recognize your accomplishments. It's
absolutely.
so easy to just sidestep that and just be like, all
Yeah,
right, what's next?
yeah.
That's just not how I'm trying to
It,
live my life anymore.
I totally agree. It's so funny. Kevin, my co-founder here at Pebble, and we met up some of our metrics early on this quarter already, and
Yeah.
finding ways to celebrate that now with the team,
Yes.
also getting them on the same page. Now you guys are all rowing together.
Yeah.
Like, what can we put together and have carrot sticks for everybody to
Yeah.
win together? That is where things start building even more momentum, celebrating with the team. And it's
Yes.
definitely one thing, I'll admit this, we've been having our head down for the last, 2.5 years, whatever years that we've been sort of launched, and celebrating wins is a muscle that we still are learning to figure out to regularly on a weekly basis, bring up. It's challenging. And sometimes, like, I mean, you almost feel like weird. Is this really a win? Like, well, I think I'm going to share this anyways.
Yeah.
So I think you're, coming back to being clear on what is a win, celebrating those wins are huge, and it's something that we all don't do enough of. So
I want to tackle on one more point to that. You brought up
yeah,
something that's just been on my mind recently. Celebrating wins is not, especially when you're building a team. This is really just only relates to when you're building a team. Celebrating
yeah,
the win is something that you have to do, not even just for yourself, for your team.
yeah,
And what I've noticed is that, like, yeah, cool, spiffs, bonuses, like all that stuff, great.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what's been really fascinating is like the small little recognition of like, hey, give your employee money to go out to dinner or buy them coffee in the morning. Those little insignificant things or that seem insignificant, have
Yeah.
such a crazy ripple effect. And
Yeah.
like just the buy-in that you get from your people for recognition and not
Yeah.
always linking it to just cold hard cash. It's been really,
Yeah.
really interesting. Something that we're doing in the Leah program too. We're getting trophies made. No one actually knows this in the group. We're getting
Yeah.
trophies made for all different kind of classifications of wins
I
that we're going
love
to be
that.
giving out quarterly. And I'm like, it's
That's
crazy
awesome.
what people will do for a trophy. It's like just that recognition can go such a long way for either a community or
Yeah.
more importantly for your team.
Yeah.
So something
Yeah.
that I'm like, as a leader, it's my responsibility to take time to celebrate wins because they deserve it.
Yeah, I love that. I know there's some tribes that definitely do that. I
Yeah,
mean, you look at sports. I mean, I watch UFC a lot. A
yeah.
lot of people might not be into
I
that,
love
but
UFC. Love it.
oh, great! Now we're gonna have a chat after this
Yeah,
about the UFC. But they talk about the belt all the time. It's all about the belt and being and defending the belt. Everything revolves around the belt,
yeah.
which is so funny. Like it's really not.
It's
It's
not
not about the belt.
significant, and like objectively, it's just a belt with a medal on it, but it becomes so significant in that context.
Yeah, and obviously that's an exaggerated version, but I think you're absolutely right. Giving some sort of a recognition is huge,
Yeah,
huge, huge. Man, I love that. Listen, you've been mentioning this whole Leah group. Tell us a little bit about what Leah is and
yeah,
what does
yeah.
it stand for?
It stands for the Land Investing Accelerator. So it's a land investing. We've got two offerings currently. We've got the Land Investing Accelerator program, which is a course. It's kind of like our starter program. Then our flagship program, which quite frankly, that's where we have the most people in, is our Leah group coaching program. So it's a 12-month group coaching program. Really, like we're focused on tackling two items. So I'm not in the business of selling information. I think far too many people are like, here's the information, you figure out how to interpret it. I'm focused on selling objectives. And so, two objectives that we put forth for people inside of our group coaching program. The first 6 months is mastering the skill of land investing. Land investing is very much a skill, right? You can get better results by developing the skill of getting better at market selection, at pricing, at talking to sellers. Like all that stuff is skill based. The trouble that we found, and this is from personal experience and coaching, 100 plus people in the last year, is like we get a lot of people that come to us that have been in the business for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and
Yeah,
they're still in that skill arena. What happens is you've got this link where your input is directly related to what you get in the back end, right? So there's this one-to-one relationship. There's no leverage in that system. And so the back half of our group coaching program is how do you take that skill and build a business around it? And we found there's a really systematic approach to how you build a land business. That's the beautiful thing about this model is it doesn't really deviate much, right? So we've got a very specific subtype of land we go after. We've got very specific markets we go after. We
yeah,
plug people into that model. And then once they hit the $250,000 mark or so, then they start building a business around it. That's why we have folks that like Michael Bull, 2 years in, is going to do 7 figures. It's like that is not just related to the skill of being a good land investor. He learned the skill and we plugged in the right people into a system. There's a few different things you can look at when building a business. It's like eliminate some of the fluff. So like we really try to distill down the Pareto principle, like the 80-20, what's really driving your results. There's a
hmm
little automation, which you're going to come and speak to the group a bit about that. There's
yeah,
not a whole lot of automation in this business, though.
hmm
It's a lot of nuance to what we do. So like it's hard to automate a lot of what we do.
yeah,
At the core of it, this is a labor play. It requires humans. It's about delegation. And so those are like the three areas that we really focus. And quite frankly, I think there's just been this starving need in this business to
yeah,
show people how to build the business, right? I always tell us the folks in our group, you are a land entrepreneur. You're not a land investor. Like get that dirty word out of your head, right? Investor is so one-to-one hand combat, like, and you can make money doing that, but it
yeah,
quickly caps out. What we
yeah,
found is the core pillar that people are looking to achieve across the board. Doesn't matter how old, young they are, what their financial status is. People come to us that are making hundreds of thousands in their job, or we've
yeah,
had folks that are like dropping out of college that come to us. The core thing that they all say, Sumner, I want time, right?
yeah,
You don't get time by playing the skill game. You get
yeah,
time by creating leverage in the system. What's cool about this business is that we don't have to solve a problem through building a product. We don't have to service needy clients or any of that stuff. We leverage an asset that's already in demand. We figure out a way to acquire it. It's a very low friction business. You
yeah,
sell 3 to 5 properties a month, and you just got to build a system around acquiring it and disposing of it. It's very straightforward. And so
yeah,
that is the mission that we're maniacally focused on. And even our course still lies on that and goes through that, covers
yeah,
both sides of the spectrum. The rub that we found is that a course is static, right? Imagine trying to learn all of that in a vacuum. It's like everything looks perfect when I do it, and then you try to do it, and you're like, the heck, this deal looks so different. And so I think
yeah,
it's like there are personality types that can achieve that, but I found that the path to success is marrying information with coaching. So we have a framework that we call learn, implement, coach. I think we all learn things through feedback loops. Either the
Mhm.
market is going to be the feedback loop that teaches you, that's long and potentially painful, or you get coached and that creates a feedback loop. So we say you go through the course, you learn, you implement in lockstep with what we're doing in those modules. It's like a look over the shoulder kind of program.
Yep.
And then you get coached on all your work. You get coached on the market you select. You get coached on your pricing. And we coach through every step of that journey. And that
Yeah.
reduces a lot of the risk. But more than anything, you're taking something that would take 3 months and compressing it into a couple of hours, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got 2 new things launching that are super exciting in June. We've got our 7-figure pricing masterclass that's coming out. It's actually with one of our kind of rock star students. He's building the whole entire program. His name's Rylan. He's a mechanical engineer that turned into land investor. He's just so good on the data side and has built an incredible process around pricing and around building teams to work that pricing, right? But what we found is a lot of what ties into pricing is the top of the funnel. A good,
Mm.
easy, an easy process with pricing is by picking the right markets. So we seek out markets that have demand because land is a liquid. So demand is kind of like the telltale sign if we should work there. And the next thing is we got to find areas that have homogenous pricing. So there's 3 frameworks that we use to find that. And then their pricing process should be pretty easy from there. But you got to create systems around that you can plug
Yep.
people into. And so we try to keep it as binary as possible so someone else can come in and do it on your behalf. The second thing that we have releasing in June as well is our market selection newsletter. So we've been building out a team of data analysts over the last couple of months. We built actually a script that goes through and scrubs data from Redfin. Hopefully they're not listening to this and block our code. But essentially what we're doing is we're going through, we've aggregated all of the counties in the US. We found a little over 1,000 counties that meet our framework. And every month that gets delivered to the members, and that breaks down sell-through rate based on time frame, based off the size of the property. We break down what kind of the ownership characteristics are, breakdown of out of state, in state, all of that
Yeah.
data. And so you go in there and you instantly have a snapshot of where you need to go and
Wow.
start putting your marketing dollars. And that is a dictator. When you're first getting started, that is a dictator of your success. Because if you want to go mail Alaska or Florida, the data and the mail cost exactly the same. What is going to dictate your results is the price point of those properties and the sell-through rate. That's it. That's really it. And so if you can get really good at that, you can increase the ROAS from your mailing, which is going to allow you to compound faster. We see people in our program getting about $10 to $15 of gross profit for every $1 they spend on direct mail. That's crazy. That's how you compound your efforts way faster. And so like the day and age of just being like, I found a county, go blast out some mail. It's like not how it works anymore. Right? Yeah.
I was going to say, because I'm getting excited here. How can I get on? I want to get on that newsletter. How does one actually get on that newsletter?
Yeah. So we're 2 things are happening. So we are capping the seats on that because I think that it'd take a lot of people, right? But I think if you had thousands of people on there, the value starts to diminish because everyone's going to be like, oh, this is the clear winner. So we're starting with 50 seats on it. What we've done is essentially fractionalize the cost of having your own data analyst team. So for us, it cost us almost 5 figures to have the data analyst team. So that cost is fractionalized. So it's a quarterly subscription. We're starting with 50 seats. The first kind of intro round of people is going to be folks that are in our group coaching program, so they get dibs. If I had to guesstimate, probably 30 to 40 of the seats will be taken internally from the group. And then the remaining amount is going to be released publicly. So we're starting with 50. We've already had a handful of people reserve spots. So I think they're going to go pretty darn fast.
So are you going to have a wait list? Because I'm sure people who are listening to this are like, Sumner, hand it over. Where do we find this wait list?
So we are going to have a wait list. There's 2 things. There's really one thing that you can do to get on the wait list. We haven't released it publicly yet. So the wait list will be opened up in June. If you guys go inside of our Discord, once you join, you'll get a message from us that allows you to join our email list. Inside there, you're going to get the first peek at it. One last thing that I want to piggyback on, and we'll share a link down below. We just launched this in May, and we're really excited by it. So we launched this actually last week. It's our LEA scholarship. So it's a scholarship program for a 12-month group coaching program. We've had, I think, 79 people apply since last week for it. And essentially what we're doing is we'll fund all of your own deals, which we already do for anyone in your program. We'll fund all of your own deals. The price of admission, our group coaching program is a 5-figure program. So the price of admission is a small down payment. Then we actually get equity in your first 3 deals. So if you win, we win. If you don't win, we don't win, right? So it's like we're always trying to figure out how can we align the incentives. We're letting on 10 people. We only got a handful left. So the other ones have been filled up so far. Probably something that we'll be rolling out on a quarterly basis. But what I found is that when I first started in this land business, I had $7,000 and I had tenacity. but I needed help, dude. I needed help like desperately. I spent a year buying landlocked stuff on sides of cliffs, stuff that was buying deals that had bad title. I was doing everything wrong.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
I spent 2 years doing that, dude, like just spinning my wheels. And yes, I had the grit to figure it out. But if
Yeah.
someone would have said, "Hey, Sumner, I'll bring you in, I'll show you the ropes. If you win, we win. That's how we get compensated. We'll show
Yes.
you the playbook." Not only would I have saved time, but my efforts would have compounded way faster. So what I've seen is that like every month we get a half dozen to a dozen people that are killers. And I'm like, you remind me of me. But they don't have the means. And it's like, what a
Right.
freaking shame, dude. We've had in the last couple months, I've had someone that joined our program that sent out 40,000 neutral letters, got 0 deals from it. Went $60,000 in debt to get that done with systems, with mail, with all of it. We had a guy that was $100,000 in the hole on marketing and got 0 deals from it. This business is not as cut and dry as just send some mail. Like there
Yeah.
are there are minefields that you got to watch out for that will end your career. And the sad thing is that a lot of these people will just throw in the towel.
Yeah.
It's like if I have any say in this, I don't want that to happen, quite frankly. And there's people that I know are A players that just need the playbook and just need the accountability. That's it.
Yeah. 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 That's awesome. Listen, Sumner, you shared a lot of resources and what you're building here.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear the creativity that you're putting into some of the projects that you're working on. I mean, where's the best way to find you? I've already talked about your Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best way, but that's how I found you. But what are some ways people can connect with you and
Yes.
find out more about your community and the projects that you're working on?
So our website is landinvestor.co. You'll see our course on there. You can book a strategy call with us on there if you guys want to
Yeah.
learn more about the group coaching program. If you guys think you're a good fit for the scholarship, and when I mean that you're a good fit, I mean one, you've got integrity, right? Like this is a partnership in essence. We are working with you for an extended period of time in a very
Yes.
close relationship, and you actually have a vision. People that are just like, I want to make some money. It's like you're not a good fit for this, right? Integrity and a clear vision. You can go to landinvestor.co/scholarship. We'll put that in the link down below. That's to submit an application for the scholarship. We'll
Yeah.
review your scholarship application. If everything checks out, we'll move forward with an interview. And then after that, the team and I will meet and kind of go over what was discussed on that call and walk you through next steps. The best way to get involved, though, if you're like, dude, I just want to like test drive this, I almost want to see what all this is about, is our
Yeah.
Discord. We've got a public Discord. It's almost 500 members in there.
Cool.
Totally free to join. We'll put that down below. It's like some crazy gargly goop domain, so it's
Okay.
not easy to get to.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
get in there on YouTube, Sumner Healy, Instagram, Sumner Healy. It's all the same thing. You find
Yeah.
me one of those places.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's Sumner, Sumner.
Yeah, not Summer. So yeah, I get
Yeah.
Summer a lot. Yeah, it's Sumner.
Yeah. So I'm very careful about pronouncing your name
Yeah, I
always.
appreciate
I'm about
it.
to say Summer, but it's
Yeah,
Sumner. I know that. Well, hey, Sumner, I want to say thank you for being open to talking about the realities of land business, even from somebody like yourself who's doing a lot in, you're definitely not a starter, but again, I think one of the things that you mentioned, it is very relative too. So for those of you that are listening and are coming across challenges and ceilings and dips and whatnot, know that that is part of the journey. And this is all part of the game that we all signed up for.
yeah,
So don't think like it just because somebody's showing all these great numbers that they don't go through any of that. We all do. So I want to make sure that that is a reminder, and that is sort of the big takeaway
yeah.
from this. Nonetheless, Sumner and I are also working on some stuff together with Pebble, so that's really cool too. Make sure you check out his Leah group, and that's landinvestor.co. And so make sure you check out that. I'll put that all in the show notes. Sumner, I'm going to have you back on probably, and we'll catch up with you when you're back from another vacation. But make sure you guys follow his travels. We'll get this all published out there. And Sumner, thanks again for coming on the show.
Of course. One last parting words for anyone that's going
Please.
through it, right? Anyone that's feeling a little down on themselves. One thing I always tell the group, a lot of your success is just dictated by time in the market, right? If you got the right framework and you're willing to stick it out, things will get better. And so I don't care where you're at. You could be 6 years in and going through a slump, or 6 months in and going through a slump. Stick with it. Like good things will happen. A lot of it is just related to time and implementing the right things. So stick with it.
Love it. Thanks again, Sumner, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Cheers. Before you stop this episode or hit the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast by Pebble. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate any awesome reviews and ratings on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast or the specific episode that may help them on their land investing journey. Once again, thanks so much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.